Have you ever wondered why some people seem to effortlessly manifest their desires while others struggle endlessly? The mind is the master key to all that you experience in this world. Thought is not a passive force. It is the very fabric of reality, shaping every event, circumstance, and condition of your life. To think correctly is to hold the key to creation itself. For as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Yet most people do not think, they react. They observe the outer world, allowing circumstances to dictate their emotions, their beliefs, and their actions. They look upon what is and believe it to be final, unaware that what they see is nothing more than a shadow of past thinking. If one continues to accept only what the senses report, then life becomes an endless cycle of repetition. The same problems, the same struggles, the same disappointments, all because the mind is left untamed, wandering from one fleeting thought to another without direction or discipline. To think correctly is to take full control of this inner conversation. It is to understand that the world outside is simply a reflection of the world within. If one wishes to change anything in life, the change must begin in thought, not through willpower, not through struggle, but through the assumption of the right state of mind. The key is not in battling circumstances, but in assuming the feeling of the desired outcome as if it were already true. There are those who say, but I must be realistic, I must face facts. And to them, the world remains as it is, unchanging, unyielding, a mirror of their unwavering belief in limitation. But to those who understand the power of mind, reality is not a fixed thing. It is a fluid, ever-changing reflection of thought. The one who thinks correctly does not ask whether something is possible. They assume that it is already so, and by assuming, they make it real. Consider this. Every invention, every great work, every advancement in history began in the mind of one who refused to accept the world as it was. The bridges you cross, the buildings you enter, the very chair upon which you sit were once ideas in the mind of another. The world is thought made visible. And if this is true, then what greater power exists than the ability to direct thought deliberately toward a chosen outcome? The mind that is left to drift will always return to the familiar, to the habitual. If one has lived in lack, the mind will dwell upon lack. If one has experienced rejection, the mind will expect rejection. And yet, none of these conditions exist outside of the individual who perceives them. They are illusions sustained only by the attention given to them. Withdraw that attention and they must fade away, for they have no life of their own. To think correctly, one must train the mind as one would train the body. It requires discipline, a conscious effort to reject all that contradicts the desired state. It is not enough to think positively for a moment, only to fall back into doubt and fear. The correct way to think is to persist in the assumption that what is desired is already true, to make this assumption so natural, so habitual, that the mind accepts it as reality. There are those who say, but I have tried and it has not worked. And to them the question must be asked, did you truly persist or did you merely wish? For there is a difference. Wishing is weak. It is filled with doubt and hesitation. True assumption is unwavering. It does not concern itself with appearances, nor does it waver in the face of delay. It knows that the unseen reality is more real than the visible world, and it holds firm until the outer world aligns. Observe a child at play, and you will see the power of imagination at work. The child does not question whether the game is real. They step fully into the assumption of their role. If they are a king, they walk as a king. If they are a warrior, they fight with conviction. The mind of the child is free from limitation because they have not yet learned to doubt their own imagination. And yet this same power remains within all, buried beneath layers of conditioning and disbelief. If you desire health, assume the feeling of one who is whole. If you desire success, walk with the confidence of one who already possesses it. Do not wait for evidence will always follow thought. The outer world is nothing but a delayed reflection of the inner world. Change the inner world and the outer must conform. The great mistake is to believe that thinking is merely the act of responding to what is seen, but true thinking is the act of creation itself. It is to believe in what is unseen, to feel it real, to live as though it were already done. There is no power outside of thought. There is no fate, no destiny, no external force that shapes your life apart from the assumptions held within your own mind. The one who understands this no longer asks, "How will this come to pass?" They do not concern themselves with means or methods. They simply assume, persist, and allow the world to rearrange itself accordingly. And so, to think correctly is to think from the end. It is to live now as the person you wish to be, to dwell in the certainty of your fulfilled desire, to reject all that contradicts it, and to persist until the unseen becomes seen. This is the great secret. This is the power that lies within. What you believe yourself to be, you will become. What you assume to be true, you will experience. The world will never contradict your inner state, for it is only a mirror, reflecting back to you what you have chosen to assume as real. Think wisely, assume boldly, live as though your wish is already fulfilled, and so it shall be. This speech embodies the essence of thinking correctly, structured in a way that Neville Goddard himself might have spoken. Would you like me to refine it further or add any specific elements? The mind is the center of all experience, the starting point of every condition, and the origin of all that appears in life. Nothing happens by chance. Nothing is set in motion without first being conceived in thought. The unseen world of imagination is the true reality, and what is seen is simply the outward expression of inner conviction. To understand this is to grasp the secret of all creation. Nothing exists independently of mind, and nothing holds permanence except that which is continuously assumed to be true. The individual who recognizes this does not look to the outside world for confirmation, but instead turns inward, shaping reality through the disciplined control of thought. All transformation begins within, and the most powerful force in existence is the directed use of imagination. Most believe that change comes through external effort, through struggle and force. They labor to rearrange conditions, believing that success, happiness, or fulfillment must be earned through toil. But this is a misunderstanding of the creative process. The outer world is only a reflection, a mirror responding perfectly to the inner state. To force circumstances without first changing thought is as futile as attempting to change one's reflection without altering the face before the mirror. It is not action that shapes destiny, but assumption. To assume is to accept as true that which is not yet visible, to persist in the awareness of a thing before it is made manifest. This is the law by which all things come into being, the unseen process behind every so-called miracle. Look upon the world and recognize that everything you see, every building, every invention, every work of art, was first an idea. Before it took form, it existed only in the mind of the one who dared to assume it real. This is the process by which all things appear, and this is the process by which your own life is shaped. The question then is not whether this law is true. It is evident in all aspects of existence. The question is whether you are using it deliberately or unconsciously. Every moment, assumption is at work. Every thought, every feeling, every belief is forming the substance of tomorrow's reality. The unaware allow this power to be directed by fear, doubt, and limitation, and so they experience struggle. The wise take control, selecting thoughts with precision, assuming only that which contributes to their highest vision. The secret is in feeling. To assume correctly is not to wish, nor to daydream, but to feel with certainty that the desired condition is already fact. This is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. The moment a state is fully accepted in imagination, the outer world must conform. There is no exception to this law, for the world has no power of its own. It only reflects the consciousness that sustains it. Some will say, I have imagined, yet nothing has changed. But to them the question must be asked, did you truly assume, or did you merely entertain a passing thought? The difference is vast. Assumption is not a fleeting wish. It is the knowing that something already is, even before it takes form. It does not waver, does not seek validation, does not concern itself with time or appearances. It simply is, and because it is held unwaveringly, it must appear. Consider the individual who sees themselves as weak, as lacking, as incapable. Life does not contradict them, it affirms their assumption. Doors remain closed, opportunities unseen, conditions unchanged, not because of fate or external forces, but because their inner conviction has decreed it so. Change the assumption, and the world must follow. Begin to see oneself as powerful, as capable, as abundant, and life will rearrange itself accordingly. No circumstance is beyond the reach of this law. The one who is ill and assumes health will find the body responding. The one who is poor and assumes wealth will see conditions shift. The one who is lonely and assumes companionship will be met with love. But assumption must be total. It cannot be divided between belief and doubt. A single unwavering thought is more powerful than 1,000 uncertain wishes. Do not wait for conditions to change before assuming them to be as you wish. The mind that waits is the mind that remains stagnant. Assume first, and the world will move in response. This is the way all things are brought forth, not through force, but through certainty. Even now, at this very moment, life is responding to the assumptions held within. Every event, every meeting, every circumstance is unfolding in perfect accordance with what has been accepted as true. The great error is to believe that external forces hold sway over fate. They do not. It is the unseen, the inner conviction that determines all. To see evidence of this requires no great effort. Simply look at life as it is now, the state of the body, the nature of relationships, the quality of experiences. Each one is a perfect reflection of the assumptions held in mind. If one does not like what they see, they must not look outward to change it, but inward. A new assumption, fully accepted, will bring forth an entirely new world. This is not theory. This is not philosophy. This is the reality by which all things operate. Thought is cause. Experience is effect. Assume deliberately, and you shape reality to your will. Assume carelessly, and the world is shaped by default. The choice has always belonged to the individual. It is never too late to take control, never too late to shift the inner conversation and step into a new awareness. The moment one assumes differently, life begins to move. The question is not whether this law works, it is whether you will use it consciously. What you assume yourself to be, you will become. The greatest power known to man is imagination. It is the source of all creation, the bridge between the invisible and the visible, the force that shapes destiny. Everything that has ever been brought into existence, every structure, every invention, every great work, was first conceived in the unseen realm of thought before it took form in the world. This is the secret few understand, yet it is the key to everything. The mind left untrained is like a ship without a captain, drifting wherever the winds of circumstance may take it. Those who do not understand this power allow their imagination to be ruled by fear, doubt, and limitation, and so their lives reflect these very things. They accept conditions as final, believing themselves to be at the mercy of fate, unaware that the world they see is nothing more than a reflection of the world they have imagined. But to those who know, imagination is the master key. It is the tool by which all things are shaped, and the only limit placed upon it is the one imposed by the individual. To live wisely is to direct imagination deliberately. It is to reject all that contradicts the desired state and to dwell only upon that which contributes to its fulfillment. The great mistake is to believe that imagination is mere fantasy, that it holds no power over reality. Nothing could be further from the truth. Imagination is reality. It is the unseen cause behind every seen effect. It is the blueprint from which the world takes form. To imagine a thing vividly with feeling is to set in motion forces that must bring it into being. Consider for a moment the way life unfolds. A man who believes himself to be unfortunate will see misfortune at every turn. The one who assumes they are unloved will find the world reflecting this belief. The one who believes in limitation will always encounter obstacles. These are not coincidences. They are the perfect outpicturing of inner conviction. Change the conviction, and the world must change in response. Most believe that change happens externally, that effort and struggle are required to shift conditions. But the wise know that reality bends to thought. To imagine oneself healthy in the midst of illness, to assume abundance in the face of lack, to feel loved when all appears lonely. This is the secret. It is not wishful thinking. It is the law by which all things come into being. The outer world cannot help but conform to the dominant assumptions held in mind. Imagination works ceaselessly, whether one is aware of it or not. It is the silent architect of life, constructing experience in perfect accordance with the ideas impressed upon it. There is no moment when this power is inactive. The question then is not whether one uses imagination, but whether one uses it wisely. Those who suffer do not suffer by chance. They suffer because they have unconsciously imagined themselves into states of suffering. The unaware allow past failures, present fears, and future anxieties to dictate their inner world, and so these things persist. But the one who understands takes control. They select their thoughts carefully, shaping their vision with precision, refusing to entertain any idea that does not serve their highest good. To imagine correctly is to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. It is not to long for a thing nor to hope for it, but to feel in this very moment as though it were already so. This is the bridge between thought and reality. The senses may deny it, the outer world may contradict it, but none of this matters. What is held in imagination with conviction must externalize itself in time. The world is simply a delayed reflection of that which has already been established in mind. Some may say, but I have imagined before and nothing changed. And to them, the question must be asked, did you persist? For imagination is not a fleeting wish. It is not something to be tested momentarily and then abandoned. It must be lived in. It must become more real than the world of the senses. The individual who assumes their desire as fact, who walks each day in the certainty of its fulfillment, will find the world shifting in ways they could not have planned. People, circumstances, and events will rearrange themselves in perfect harmony to bring about the assumed reality. This is not coincidence, it is law. A child at play does not question whether their imagined world is real. They step into it fully, experiencing it with all their senses, believing in it completely. And because they believe, it is real to them. This same power remains within all, buried beneath layers of doubt and conditioning. The one who learns to revive this childlike faith, to step into their assumed reality with certainty, will see miracles unfold. If one desires success, they must assume the feeling of success now, before any evidence appears. If one desires love, they must feel loved now, regardless of circumstances. If one desires abundance, they must assume the consciousness of abundance, even in the face of lack. To wait for conditions to change before assuming the new state is to misunderstand the creative process. The new state must first be felt internally before it can become visible externally. The world does not create thought. Thought creates the world. To imagine wisely is to hold the reins of destiny, to know that nothing is impossible, to understand that the only limitations are those accepted as true. The moment one fully embraces this, they become the master of their reality, shaping experiences effortlessly as an artist shapes clay. Every great achievement, every transformation, every success story is the result of one who dared to believe in the unseen. They did not wait for proof. They did not allow doubt to creep in. They saw what they wanted in imagination and they held to it until the world conformed. This is the way all things are brought forth. This is the power that lies within. Everything that you experience in life is a reflection of your state of consciousness. There is nothing outside of you that has power over you unless you grant it power through your attention and belief. The world is not something happening to you. It is something happening through you, shaped by the assumptions and beliefs you hold to be true. The key to transforming any aspect of your life lies not in changing the external world, but in changing your internal state. Most people go through life believing that they are subject to conditions, circumstances, and external forces. They see their financial situation, their relationships, their health, and their opportunities as things dictated by the world around them. They react to what they see, thinking that reality is fixed and unchangeable. But this is a misunderstanding of how life truly operates. The outer world is only a reflection of the inner world. To change anything in life, one must first change the way they see themselves in relation to that aspect of life. If a person sees themselves as unsuccessful, if they believe that opportunities are scarce and success is difficult, then life will reflect that belief. Doors will remain closed, obstacles will seem insurmountable, and their experiences will confirm what they already assume to be true. It is not because the world is against them, but because their inner state has decreed it so. But if this same person were to change their assumption, if they were to see themselves as someone who is successful, capable, and deserving, then everything would shift. The world would reflect back to them a new set of experiences in harmony with their new assumption. Everything begins with self-concept. The way you see yourself determines how life responds to you. You cannot experience anything that is inconsistent with your concept of self. If you wish to change your experiences, you must first change your idea of who you are. The individual who sees themselves as wealthy will experience wealth. The one who sees themselves as loved will experience love. The one who sees themselves as healthy will experience health. It is not external forces that determine these things. It is the state of being that one assumes to be true. To shift into a new state, one must first identify the beliefs they currently hold about themselves. Many people do not realize that they have unconsciously accepted negative or limiting beliefs. They believe that they are not good enough, not capable enough, not worthy enough, and life has reflected those beliefs back to them. These assumptions were not placed upon them by some external force. They were accepted as truth, often without question. The good news is that just as these limiting beliefs were adopted, they can also be discarded and replaced with new, empowering assumptions. The process of transformation is not complicated, but it does require persistence. One must begin to assume a new state of being before it appears outwardly. This means thinking, feeling, and acting as though the desired change has already taken place. It means stepping into the role of the person you wish to become, not in the future, but now. The world does not cause you to believe. Your belief causes the world to shift. If you wait for evidence before changing your assumption, you will wait forever. The change must happen within first, and then the external will conform. If a person desires financial abundance, they must not dwell on thoughts of lack. They must not identify themselves as someone who is struggling. Instead, they must assume the consciousness of wealth, seeing themselves as already abundant, feeling the security and freedom that wealth provides, and walking through life with the confidence of one who is financially prosperous. This shift in consciousness will reorganize their experiences, bringing them into alignment with their new assumption. The same applies to any area of life: health, relationships, success, happiness. The mistake that many make is that they allow their senses to dictate what they believe. They look at their current situation, and if it does not match what they desire, they assume that change is impossible. They let the appearance of things determine their belief, rather than using belief to change the appearance of things. But those who understand the nature of reality know that the visible world is only a reflection of past thoughts and assumptions. If you wish to create a new reality, you must hold steadfastly to your new assumption, regardless of what the senses report. The secret is in feeling. Assumption is not just about words or fleeting thoughts. It is about feeling deeply that what you desire is already true. It is about embodying the state of the person you wish to be. When you persist in this assumption, it becomes so natural that it no longer feels like a desire. It feels like a fact. And when it feels like a fact internally, it must become a fact externally. The one who truly understands this principle no longer allows circumstances to dictate their state of mind. They do not allow fear, doubt, or temporary setbacks to shake them. They know that life is responding to their inner world, and they persist in their chosen state until it externalizes itself. This is how all transformation occurs, not through struggle, not through external effort, but through the disciplined control of assumption and feeling. At any moment, you can assume a new state. You can let go of the old self, the old limitations, and the old doubts, and step into the version of yourself that already possesses all that you desire. The choice is always yours, and the power to transform any aspect of your life has always been within you. The world you experience is not separate from you. It is not something happening outside of you, nor is it something beyond your control. Everything that appears in your life, every event, every encounter, every circumstance, is a reflection of your own consciousness. It is shaped by the assumptions you hold, the beliefs you accept, and the thoughts you dwell upon. There is no power outside of you directing the course of your life. You are the cause, and your world is the effect. Most people move through life unaware of this truth. They believe they are at the mercy of fate, subject to forces beyond their control. They react to what they see, not realizing that what they see is simply the outpicturing of their past assumptions. When something undesirable happens, they blame circumstances, other people, or chance, never stopping to recognize that the external world is only a mirror. The wise understand that to change their world, they must first change themselves. They do not fight against conditions. They transform their inner state, knowing that the outer world must follow. If you wish to see different results in life, you must begin by assuming a new state of being. You must step into the feeling of your desired reality, not as something distant or far away, but as something present and real. The world does not bring you what you want, it brings you what you are. If you persist in seeing yourself as lacking, struggling, or failing, life will reflect that assumption back to you. But if you assume success, abundance, and fulfillment, then life must bring these things to you in ways beyond your imagination. The mind is always creating. Whether you realize it or not, you are constantly shaping your reality with your inner conversations, your beliefs, and your feelings. There is never a moment when you are not imagining something. The question is not whether you are using this power, but how you are using it. Are you directing it with purpose, or are you allowing it to be controlled by doubt, fear, and past conditioning? The unaware imagine unconsciously, allowing their minds to be filled with worry and limitation. The wise imagine deliberately, selecting their thoughts with care and assuming only that which aligns with their highest vision. Every state of being has its own corresponding experiences. The person who assumes themselves to be unlucky will encounter misfortune. The one who assumes they are unworthy of love will find rejection. These things do not happen by chance. They are the result of sustained inner convictions. But the same law that binds one to limitation can also set one free. The moment you change your assumption, the moment you fully accept a new belief about yourself, the world begins to shift. Opportunities appear where none existed before. People behave differently toward you. Circumstances rearrange themselves in perfect alignment with your new state of consciousness. There is no limit to what you can assume. No condition is too great, no dream too distant. The only limitation is the one imposed by your own acceptance. The one who dares to assume boldly, to step into the feeling of their wish fulfilled, will find life bending to their vision. But assumption must be total. It is not enough to wish, to hope, or to momentarily entertain a new idea. You must live in it, embody it, and persist in it until it feels natural. The moment it feels natural, it is done. Many will say, but how can I assume something that contradicts my senses? How can I feel rich when my bank account is empty? How can I feel loved when I am alone? How can I feel healthy when my body is in pain? And to them, the answer is simple. The world does not change first. You do. Your senses only report the effects of past assumptions. If you continue to believe in what they show you now, you will remain trapped in the same cycle. But if you disregard appearances and hold fast to your new assumption, the world must transform to reflect it. The unseen is always greater than the seen. What you hold in imagination is more powerful than what you observe with your eyes. If you assume something new and persist in that assumption, it will solidify into fact. The key is persistence. The moment you allow doubt to creep in, the moment you revert to your old state of thinking, you halt the process. This is why many fail, not because the law does not work, but because they waver between belief and disbelief, between assumption and doubt. To succeed, you must remain unwavering in your conviction, knowing that the outer world has no choice but to conform to your inner reality. Everything you experience is a perfect reflection of what you have accepted as true. If you do not like what you see, do not fight against it. Instead, turn within and assume the feeling of the new reality. Let that feeling become so strong, so real within you, that it begins to replace the old state. Do not concern yourself with how or when it will happen. Your only responsibility is to persist in the assumption. The rest will take care of itself. The greatest transformations occur when one fully embraces this truth. There is no power outside of you dictating your life. You alone are the creator of your experience. Assume wisely, persist unwaveringly, and watch as life reshapes itself in perfect harmony with your vision. The mind is the master key, the silent architect of all that you experience. Whether you recognize it or not, you are constantly shaping the world around you through the images you hold, the thoughts you entertain, and the feelings you allow to take root. Nothing in your life happens by chance. Every circumstance, every event, every relationship is a direct reflection of your inner state of being. The unseen reality of thought precedes the seen reality of form. To understand this is to hold the power of transformation in your hands. There are those who believe they are subject to external forces, that they must wait for life to bring them opportunities, that they must react to circumstances rather than create them. They move through life unaware of the creative power within them, unaware that their world is simply a mirror reflecting back their assumptions. They look at their current conditions, whether financial struggles, difficulties in relationships, or challenges in health, and they accept them as fixed, as though they were imposed upon them by forces beyond their control. But nothing is fixed except that which is held in consciousness. The moment one dares to persist in a new belief, the entire structure of life begins to shift in response. To change anything in life, one must first change the way they see themselves. The world does not bring to you what you want. It brings to you what you are. If you see yourself as one who struggles, if you believe that opportunities are scarce, if you assume that life is difficult, then these beliefs will harden into fact. But if you assume that you are already the person you desire to be, if you persist in this assumption, regardless of what the senses report, the world will mold itself to match that inner conviction. The key is to live from the state of the wish fulfilled. This means feeling, thinking, and acting as if your desire were already realized. It means discarding every thought that contradicts this new assumption and refusing to accept anything less than the reality you have imagined. Many believe that change happens outside in, that one must first see the evidence before they can believe. But the truth is that change happens inside out. You must first believe, and then the evidence will follow. If you desire abundance, you must assume the state of abundance now. Not tomorrow, not when circumstances change, but now. You must feel wealthy, even if your bank account suggests otherwise. You must walk with the confidence of one who is financially secure. Think from the perspective of wealth and refuse to entertain any thought of limitation. If you desire love, you must assume that you are already deeply loved and cherished. If you desire health, you must assume the feeling of vitality and well-being. The moment you fully embody the state of your desire, the world will begin to rearrange itself in ways you could not have foreseen. Some will ask, how can I assume something that is not yet true? And to them, the answer is simple. It is already true in the unseen realm of imagination. Everything that exists first existed in thought. Every invention, every work of art, every great achievement began as an idea before it became a reality. The world of the senses is only a reflection of past assumptions. If you continue to react to what is, you will remain stuck in the same patterns. But if you dare to assume something new, if you persist in that assumption until it feels natural, then what is will be forced to change. There is no power in waiting, no power in hoping or wishing. The only power lies in assuming and persisting. Many fail because they allow doubt to enter. They assume for a moment, but when the world does not immediately reflect their new belief, they revert to their old ways of thinking. This is like planting a seed and then digging it up every day to see if it has grown. The seed must be left undisturbed. The assumption must be held firm. It may take time for the outer world to catch up, but the change is inevitable as long as one does not waver. You must learn to discipline your mind, to control your inner conversations, to reject any thought that does not align with your desired state. If you say you desire success, but continually dwell on failure, you are contradicting yourself. If you say you desire love, but feel unworthy, you are blocking its manifestation. The mind must be trained to remain faithful to the vision, no matter what appears before you. This is the difference between those who succeed and those who remain bound by circumstance. The great secret is that the world has no power over you. You are not at the mercy of conditions. Conditions are at the mercy of your assumption. The moment you realize this, you are free. You are free to assume anything, to become anything, to experience anything, simply by choosing to persist in a new state of being. There is nothing too great, nothing too distant, nothing impossible for the one who dares to believe in the unseen. Everything begins within. Assume wisely, persist unwaveringly, and watch as life transforms before your very eyes. You have within you the greatest power known to man, the power to assume, to believe, and to transform your world from within. Life does not happen to you, it happens through you. Every experience, every condition, and every circumstance is a reflection of your state of consciousness. When you understand this truth, you no longer see yourself as a victim of fate, luck, or external forces. You recognize that you are the master of your destiny, shaping your reality moment by moment through the thoughts you accept and the feelings you embody. There is no force outside of you dictating the course of your life. The only thing that determines your experiences is the assumption you hold about yourself and the world. What you believe to be true will manifest in your reality. If you assume lack, you will experience lack. If you assume abundance, it will find its way to you. If you assume love, you will receive love. It is a law as certain as gravity, as unwavering as the rising of the sun. The greatest mistake one can make is waiting for evidence before believing. The outer world is nothing more than the shadow of the inner world. If you wish to see change, you must be the change first. You must assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, persist in that state, and refuse to accept anything less. Do not look to circumstances for confirmation. Look within. Reality will catch up to your assumption in perfect time. Most people waver between belief and doubt, allowing appearances to dictate their assumptions. But those who persist in their vision, who refuse to be swayed by the senses, who remain loyal to their inner conviction, these are the ones who transform their lives. It is not external effort, struggle, or force that creates change. It is the silent, unwavering certainty that what you have assumed is already true. You are not bound by your past, by circumstances, or by the opinions of others. You are free to assume anything, to become anything, to experience anything. The world will mirror back to you what you hold to be true. The power is in your hands, in your mind, in your assumption. Assume wisely, persist unwaveringly, and watch as life unfolds in perfect harmony with your vision. What you believe yourself to be, you will become.